David, good morning. My name is Ash Singh. How are you doing today?
Thank you. So transfer, as you may know, in the United States, when you get paid, you get a W-2 or 1099. One form goes to you and one goes to the government. That lets the government know that they should expect taxes on your payments. The problem occurs when you've got say, an offshore fund like a Cayman investment fund. You get a statement, but the government doesn't get anything. So about 10 years ago, the US government decided that some people may be forgetting to pay the taxes on their offshore investments and came up with a scheme called FACA. FACA, 300, they got 395,000 foreign financial institutions to agree to provide this information to the US government. And then the OECD and G20 created a similar scheme for other governments to exchange tax information. So but essentially it's the same thing. Once a year, you end up sending baseline information, the account balance, interest, dividends, that type of thing, to the governments. The beautiful thing about this is it's all greenfield. Nobody's ever had to do this before, right? So there are no incumbents in these financial institutions that are preparing this data that we have to kick out. We created CRS FACA 1 is the name of our product. And it does two things. It helps identify who needs to be reported, right? So it raises flags for any deficiencies and helps you work through the complicated process of identifying who needs to be reported. And then it prepares that usually in some sort of XML format for actual reporting. So where are we now, right? So TransWorld Compliance got about 100 customers, $1 million in revenue. We're still very early on. If you remember the Six Sigma technology adoption curve, we're still sort of in the innovators moving into the early adopters. It sounds kind of quaint these days, whether things go viral and become instantaneously adopted. But remember, we're in government, we're in compliance, we're in banking, which tends to be somewhat conservative. So this is a much longer adoption curve. So what's driving companies, financial institutions up this adoption curve? Why are we at the point where it's this inflection point where it's really going to take off? And I can tell you two reasons. One of them is Republic Bank. It's a potential client of ours. They've asked us to come in and do a pitch. They're in 22 different jurisdictions, and the compliance department figures out who are their US investors in these 22 jurisdictions, then hands it off to the IT department, who sequesters their staff, who puts it all in these 22 different types of XML to try to get it all reported. They realize this is untenable, right? Second reason is Guernsey. Guernsey just recently, in the last month or so, up their fines, right? So if you don't do CRS and FACA reporting, you get one fine, you get 30 days to fix it. If you still haven't done it, you get £1,000 a day, right? And that adds up pretty quickly. So you're starting to see the compliance pressure as well. So what we're looking for today is we're asking for one strategic investor to help us get ready for this accelerated growth, to help us invest in the sales and support that we'll need to be able to accommodate this hockey stick growth as this moves up the technology adoption curve.
Excellent.
So we have a proven product. We've got a very large market, a $4 billion market. It's all greenfield. We're not competing against other people, mostly in-house. We can provide the cost savings that compliance requires, right? There's always more you need to do within compliance, and you can't hire your way out. You need technology to make people more productive. And there's the regulatory pressures really starting to ramp up, and we're starting to see that externally with things, like a corporate tax.
David, what do you need? You need a strategic investor. How much money are you looking for?
So we're looking for a strategic investor to invest $2 million, and we're asking you, Ash, to come along for the ride. Are you in?
Yes, this sounds very interesting. I'd love to invite you over for a deeper dive in what you're doing, right? So David, thank you for sharing. And this is like, what we love about this type of business, David, is it's one of those things that is truly what we call blue ocean. I think you call it greenfield. We call it blue ocean. At the INSEAD Business School where I teach, there's this concept of blue ocean versus the red ocean. A red ocean is where everyone's fighting and there's a lot of blood in the water. Blue ocean is this new opportunity where you probably have, first mover advantage, but enough experience to make sure that that's actually an advantage and not a disadvantage. And so, I like the pitch. There was a little bit of, we went a little bit long, but I wanted everyone to kind of understand a little bit about what you do, because it's a little bit different than the typical types of companies that one might hear on a show like Shark's Tank, right? It might not be as but the other thing around it, and this is what we've realized, sometimes the most unsexy business, no offense, David, I'm not referring to you as a person, but the most
I would agree.
unsexy business are the businesses that you want to be involved with. Okay. So if you're an investor watching this right now, right, talk to any accountant, they would love this. And so when I think about it, because, you know, you went into, you know, your W-2, and there was a couple of different acronyms that are being used that most people know. If you are of significant wealth in the US, right? These are things that everyone has to fill out and kind of has to go by. When I think about what you're doing from just a top level, right? What happens is that the US government over the last 10 years since the Obama administration has been cracking down on offshore income, right? And they're becoming more and more smart about it. And we know that with the new Democratic government, they're even more focused on making sure that these you know, these challenges are addressed, and they want to make sure everyone is accountable. And now the globe, 150 countries have agreed for a 15% corporate tax component too, right? Which might not deal with the personal income tax, but there's this giant wave of tax, whether it's personal tax or income tax. And you guys are the people that have created the smart, easy way to be compliant, okay? Right? To the US, but in the future, it could be for any government. Is that correct?
Correct. To 247 billion in lost tax revenue, I think is the number. Tax
and how come you didn't use that number? I like that number. David, how come you didn't use that number in your pitch?
You just reminded me of it now.
Okay, right. Yeah. I like that number. I like that number, right? Because it comes down to, as you're starting to position yourself, are you also in a position where is the United States government backing you in any way? Are they happy with you? Do they like you?
No, they're not backing.
But they would like you, right? They like what you do, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, certainly,
right? Certainly. Right. I mean, I'm not saying like Joe Biden's your buddy, right? I'm saying like, or the Treasury, right? But they would like, they want you to exist, correct?
Right. Yes, correct.
They need, you know, and so you're a friend of the U.S. government, which is always good when you're building a startup, right? You know, even if it's an indirect friendship. And so there's $247 billion of unclaimed tax around the world in America alone every year, right? And this is personal income tax, correct?
Yeah.
Right. And eventually, some point in time, you might even go corporate, and that could take it up to trillions of dollars. And you come in and you work with financial institutions to make sure they're compliant. Okay. And I'm assuming that these people, once they start using your software, they're not going to go anywhere else, right? It's not like it's Burger King versus McDonald's where there's all these options. Once they work with you, they're probably going to stay with you, correct?
We've lost one customer in 6 years.
All right. And
they went out of business.
Yeah. Well, that's why that's a good reason to lose them, right? So you've created this, and tell me a little bit about the financial model as well, because that's where my mind was, right? You put your processes in for public consumption, if I may, David. Tell us a little bit about what the model is. You go in, your platform can plug into their current systems. You know, how long does it take to get going, and how much money do you charge to make it work?
So we charge on an annual subscription basis. Software as a service. It's either 1, 2, 3 year subscriptions with a small year-over-year price increase, or if there's an upsell, you know, they were doing just FAQ and now they're doing FAQ and CRS, we could do an upsell.
Got it. And what is an ARR typical range of subscription? How much would a bank pay?
It varies across the board. So financial institutions go from like trust, which has a few, you know, a settler and a couple of beneficiaries and trustees type of thing, up to, you know, a large HSBC. You
Got
know,
it.
they're all financial institutions.
Got it.
Correct.
And I love the word ARR, right? It reminds me when I was a young kid wanting to be a pirate, right? R, right? Now, the reason I like that is it talks to me in terms of subscription and SaaS. And you didn't use these words, David. I wanted to hear these words, right? You know, because you're doing an ARR business versus an MRR business, right? A monthly revenue, reoccurring revenue business. And so your LTV, your lifetime value, must be like off the charts, right? So, you know, once you start to kind of build the mechanics around this, right? And you have a certain number of institutions out there that are there, you already know who they are. So all these kind of things are kind of plugging in really, really well, right? In terms of what you're trying to do. And so these are the things that kind of come out to me when I think about where the world is going. You already have some traction, and with, you said $2 million, $2 million, $1 million, with 1 million US dollars, where is that going to take you?
Oh, I was asking for 2 million. Yeah. That was a number I just kind of made up. What I would probably end up doing is working out, you know, doing the bottoms up analysis. The idea would be to do sales and support worldwide. So we just pitched to Papua New Guinea and Maldives, this on our tax authority side. We don't have anybody in that part of the world. We have people in Europe, we got people in Latin America and so on and so forth. But, you know, you end up with time zones, you end up with this, that, and just, you know, establishing a presence, having somebody calling in the right time zone. So sales and support.
So international growth, right? International growth. And you're talking to me because you know that I'm connected to Singapore, which is also a big financial hub, right? You know,
yes.
So you know, that's why I'm a strategic investor. All right. Yes. What we're going to do, David, would you like me to pitch your idea back to you? Is that all right?
Please.
I'm going to do it in 1 minute, right? So you did,
all right.
You did a great pitch. Like, you know, if I was sitting with you for a coffee, I think that was a powerful 4 or 5 minutes. I thought it was great. Okay. I'm going to try to condense it to 1 minute just because, you know, we like that process. I'm going to try to give it a go. We will send you a recording as well. So, we'll make that happen. Once I hit the top, I need you to introduce yourself. Now, David, you get to be whoever you want to be, right? You can be, Kim Kardashian's new husband. You know, you got a lot of money if you're looking for investments, whatever. You decide who you want to be right now. Over to you, David. Go ahead.
Welcome to Shark Tank. Tell me, Ash, why are you here?
All right. Nice to meet you, David. My name is Ash Singh, and I want to talk to you about trans world compliance. I want to talk to you about something that most people think is very boring, and that's tax. I don't know if you know this, but there's $247 billion of unclaimed tax from Americans around the world. And as you know, as a high net worth individual, the governments are doing everything in their power to try to claim that back. In fact, recently there's a 15% tax for corporates that's going to be universal as well. And what we've been doing over the last 10, 15 years is creating tools, and my background's in this space, to make sure that we can actually offer simple, easy to onboard compliance for financial institutions around the world so they can be compliant by United States law. This is a big issue. There's tons of fines that go out if this doesn't happen. And we've had the opportunity now to get our product to the market. We have our first $1 million of revenue, and we have a beautiful lifetime value of a customer, along with a very competitive and value-added annual reoccurring revenue plan for our customers. And I want to talk to you about this because now we've got it going in the US. I need to expand. So we're looking for strategic investors that are going to help us take this growth to different markets and allow us the opportunity to become the de facto standard compliance resources for tackling this big challenge of getting as much of the $247 billion back to the US. I'd love to talk to you over a coffee.
Very good.
So what I tried to do, and I tried to weave this in, David, I went a little bit long. All right. I went a little bit long. If you could tell,
tough topic, right? To,
I wanted to weave in the ARR because I said I was going to do it. Right. I also was trying to weave in kind of the overall story, but I think the $247 billion as well as where you play, right? The blue ocean opportunity and how you are going in was kind of where my focus is. I love to talk about kind of the business element of it, right? And then get them hooked on that, right? So I tried to weave that in. I went a little bit long, but I wanted to see if I could bring some sound bites to you as well. Okay. But that's my view on it. And it's fantastic. All the right pieces are there. I think the idea of growth and where you want to grow and the profitability around that could be something that could be discussed as well. But 1 minute is tough, right? 1 minute is tough to kind of get the components going. But we love what you're working on, and definitely as part of your expansion, we have to connect the dots for you in Singapore, as one of that's where our headquarters are. Happy to help in that respect and help you down the path, right? Because I think that this is an exciting space to play in. And thank you, David, for sharing, right? Thank you very much for coming on board. Pleasure.
Thank you. Appreciate it.